If you've seen my Kiwami 3 video, you'll already know that game had some serious issues. But 3's, the expansion that came with it, well, that's a different story. 3's is essentially a Gaiden-style expansion for Mine, and the first thing you'll notice is that his combat already feels more thought out than what Kiryu had going on in the base game. So let's start there, and then we'll get into the story and side content too, because there's a lot I want to talk about. If you haven't seen my video on Kiwami 3 yet, there's a link in the description, and if you enjoy the video, the subscription button is down there as well. First thing you'll notice playing as Mine is that his combat feels more intentional than Kiryu's. Each move feels like it has a use, where Kiryu in Kiwami 3 felt a bit like his moveset was thrown together at the last minute. Mine has 7 light attacks, and while most of them share the same heavy follow-up, which is a bit of a missed opportunity, the overall feel is tighter. 6 lights into a heavy does this clean uppercut, which is the most consistent way to juggle. The juggling does kind of have the same issue as Kiwami 3, where it's just inconsistent. Sometimes I was able to get some really sick juggles, and other times it just dropped after 2 or 3 hits. I feel like this game is the most fun when it's not behaving as intended, ironically. The few good things about the Kiwami 3 combat are also here, like critical and back attacks, perfect dodges, and perfect guards, which do feel like a fun way to incentivize different approaches to combat. Mine's main gimmick is Dark Awakening, basically his Dragon Boost mode with different grab follow-ups and animations that actually make sense in context. Unlike a certain dragon of Dojima's, you have 3 heart gauges and eventually are able to activate 1, 2, or all 3 at a time. This makes the gauge last longer, which is particularly nice when you unlock the ability to heal yourself with the Dark Awakening gauge. Most, if not all, of Mine's moves from the original game are here, which I do appreciate. My favorite move from this mode is the triple light into heavy, where he drags enemies along the ground. They even gave this attack a different animation when performed from behind, which I think is a nice little attention to detail. During Dark Awakening, he also gets a light spam that works a lot like how Kiryu's Extreme Heat light spam worked in Yakuza 6. I don't know why they didn't just give this to Kiryu in his own game, but it was pretty OP, I guess. He can also hold B to do this little aerial stomp on an enemy and jump off of them for follow-up attacks on other enemies. This felt very much like something for Akiyama, and I was a big fan of it. One other thing worth mentioning is that Mine cannot pick up weapons off the ground. That sounds like a downside, but honestly, I think it fits his character. His whole kit feels way more balanced in a way that Kiryu's just doesn't. The upgrade tree has the same basic and kind of boring energy as Kiryu's, but it is a little more forgivable since Mine only has the one fighting style. We can get new heat actions, a few new attacks, and eventually the ability to use all 3 of our chained hearts or whatever they're called. Everything here is bought with money rather than ability points. Mine's completion list is in a section we'll cover later. Shockingly, the most useful upgrades seem to be the health and attack ones, although there are some unlocked attacks that are pretty damn good. Difficulty-wise, even on professional, I was able to do a lot of cheesy things. For instance, dodging into a held light attack covered about 80% of situations. It has a nice AoE, does a nice amount of damage, and builds up stun as well. Enemies have the same kind of powered up infinite armor state they have in Kiwami 3, but I felt like it lasted a lot longer in 3's for some reason. Maybe that was just me. The story here is pretty simple, but it works for what it is. Mine gets fired, goes out drinking, stumbles into something involving Daigo, and decides to work his way into the Nishikiyama family to get closer to him. There's a section where you tail Konda, but I feel like this could have been some sort of stealth minigame. It's just kind of following a guy. Judgment tried to make tailing a proper mechanic, and yeah, it wasn't well received and they overused the hell out of it, but at least they tried. Feels like a missed opportunity here. But what the story does well is Mine and Konda's dynamic. I went in not expecting much from Konda, and by the end, I genuinely felt something when I thought about his death in Yakuza 3. The ending has some really nice beats. Mine and Daigo's relationship gets fleshed out in a way I didn't expect. There's this great little moment with a bottle and a bar that I don't want to spoil. But then they just had to go and retcon Mine's death, and I think that was a big mistake. The emotional gut punch of these final scenes would have hit way harder if they'd just left it alone. Him just falling into a bush while a Daidoji guy happens to be standing there, I don't know, it felt forced. And then people mourning his death didn't feel like it had any meaning. Alright, now let's talk about the side content, the beef of this game, honestly. There are 2 main chunks here, Konda damage control and survival hell/brawler hell. But first, we need to talk about the karaoke. Mine only gets 1 song, and while Baka Mitai is a great choice, and the performance is honestly really good, I wish he had more. Karaoke is one of my favorite things about this series though, so I might be a bit biased here. Mine also has all the same minigames as Kiryu, darts, pool, bowling, not even any new arcade games to speak of. Konda damage control is Mine's version of a completion list. You run around town doing little tasks and fights to raise Konda's reputation. In theory, it's fine, but in practice, it took me about 2 to 4 hours and it felt like just pure busy work. Mine eating at restaurants improves Konda's reputation somehow. I don't understand the logic behind this, but okay. They could have used this space for proper shop owner sub-stories, restaurant or minigame unlocks, things that actually build the world. Instead, it's mostly just fetch quests and random brawls. Good Deeds section of Konda Damage Control is where we find Mine's sub-stories, and these are actually written better than a lot of Kiwami 3's rewrites in my opinion. Mine is still a bad guy, but he's your bad guy, so he has to do good deeds in a Mine way. There's this one sub-story with some graffiti vandals where he ties them up and sprays them with potentially toxic chemicals, which is pretty messed up, but it's very Mine, and it's honestly kind of perfect. It even has a pretty wholesome ending. RGG can still write good when they want to. I know the main creator is gone now, but remember, it usually takes a lot of people to make a video game. And then we have Survival Hell, which is where I spent most of my time with this expansion. These are basically mini dungeons with some roguelike upgrades that only work in this mode. You can also find new survival weapons, which work on a sort of recharge system, and new mercenary buddies to take along with you. There's a really nice element of risk-reward here that was pretty compelling, honestly. If you die, you lose everything you've earned on that run. That means any gospels, weapons, mercenaries, or money found are just gone if you overestimate yourself, or run into a stupid trap. You can take it slow, find all the upgrades, or just rush the bosses if you're feeling confident. There's also a timer, but rather than just making you fail when it runs out, you get bombarded with these meteors while fighting. I like this. It gives the player the option to try and tough it out, or run back and keep what they found so far. I enjoyed this mode more than I expected, honestly. It made me engage with Mine's full moveset in a way the main game didn't for the most part. There's way too many permanent stat upgrades spread across the same area since you have to run through it 4 times, and some of the roguelike mechanics felt a bit thin. But there's real tension here sometimes, and I'd rather they tried something new than just giving us another Coliseum. Oh yeah, there's also Brawler Hell, which is just the Coliseum. They did not try something new here. I do feel like ever since the success of the Coliseum in Like a Dragon Gaiden, the game with a really long name, RGG just loves to focus on this combat side content. It feels a bit like a missed opportunity when you look at past modes like Dragon Kart or Cabaret Club. Mine also gets his own Find the Golden Balls quest. I kinda love that they keep putting this in the newer games. It's a fun little scavenger hunt, as well as a funny reference. When you get all the balls, you get a wish. There's an obvious option here if you want to be silly, but you'll understand when you get there. So here's where I land on Dark Ties. I honestly preferred it to Kiwami 3, but that comparison feels a little unfair. Part of why Kiwami 3 frustrated me so much is that there's a version of that game that I love. This is all new, so it's easier to just enjoy it for what it is. Mine's combat is actually pretty fun, and felt more balanced than Kiryu's. The story, while not complex, adds real texture to Mine and Konda's relationship, and Mine and Daigo's relationship. And the survival hell surprised me. It's a little rough around the edges, but I had a better time with it than I expected. The side content does drag a bit, but what Yakuza side content doesn't drag a bit, and the death retcon annoyed me quite a bit, but as a companion piece to Kiwami 3, I think it's kinda worth your time. Definitely not worth a full price game on its own, but it's only 3 chapters, so you can get through the story pretty quickly if that's all you care about. Have you played Dark Ties? Let me know what you thought about it down in the comments. And if you haven't played Kiwami 3 yet, well, watch my other video first. Thanks for watching, don't forget to like and subscribe, and go play some Yakuza.